Good afternoon, welcome ma'am. Good afternoon, Ladri sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Ma'am, shall we start in a minute?
Okay, Rachna, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Rashika ma'am, after a
Yes,
minute you can
ma'am.
start the program.
Okay, sure. Shall I begin now, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. A very good evening to our honorable principal, Professor Alka Singh ma'am, honorable guest and speaker, Professor Niladri Ranjan Chatterjee sir, respected faculty members of Department of English and all other departments of Vasanta College for Women, respected members of Spectrum Club, and all my dear participants. I, Dr. Rashida Jain, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, and member of Spectrum Club, Vasanta College for Women, welcome you all in today's delegatory session of 5-day online add-on course on gender sensitization towards a human understanding of LGBTQ identities, organized under the aegis of Department of English and Spectrum LGBTQIA++, Vasanta College for Women, Krishnamurti Foundation, India, Rajghat, Varanasi. Since 4 days, we all were thoroughly engaged in learning and making our friends aware about so many concepts and terms associated with gender. We all came to know who are actually transgender persons, what problems are faced in case of gender dysphoria, what is gender and drag performance, and the most important, gender and sexuality are not one and the same, and many other things. Now, today we all have entered into the valedictory session, but I believe that there is no end to learning, and we will continue with our learning and create a better understanding in the near future as well. To begin with, I would like to invite the one who is the real star and spark behind all these activities. Her enthusiasm, dedication, and energy were all the momentum that this course needed. In fact, this 5-day online add-on course is the brainchild of none other than our revered principal, Professor Alka Singh, for which we all are highly indebted to her. With all due respect, I invite Professor Alka Singh, Principal, Vasanta College for Women, for delivering the welcome address.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, sir. It is indeed a pleasure and a privilege to welcome you on this platform. Heard so much about you through my younger colleague, and I consider it a privilege to have you on this online platform for a very important workshop, which they have worked very hard to put it together and have managed it tremendously well. I feel so happy to be associated with it, and on behalf of the Spectrum Club of our college, which consists of all my younger colleagues and students who are a part of it, along with the Department of English who have put this event together, I welcome you on behalf of all the fraternity of the college as well, of the Krishnamurti Foundation in Varanasi. It would have been a pleasure to have you in Varanasi itself, and I do look forward to an interaction in the near future by having you here in our college. Beginning with the inaugural to come to which culminates in this valedictory today, the kind of talks and the discussions and the questions that ensued, along with the participants' energy to put in the desired amount of effort in trying to understand what all this is about and what it means to be a good human being, where we transcend all barriers and give importance to all living beings on earth. This becomes very important for us to understand how to be able to look at anything that may not be within our understanding or may not be even within our premise of being able to talk about it. But this lecture series or these talks will enable all our children to be able to look at it from a very human point of view. And that is what makes me so very happy to be a part of this workshop. I had been thinking of this for a very long time, which is very correctly said by Rashika, but not all glory given to me because I know how hard each one of you have worked to put it together. I just have to put the seed there, and there it is, which comes out in this wonderful form of the 5-day workshop. I congratulate all the participants who had the vision to join a workshop of this magnitude and welcome each one of you for this valedictory session. Thank you so much, and thank you, Rashika, for having me here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. You are truly a blessing for us. Now I request Dr. Akansha Trivedi, ma'am, member, Spectrum Club, Vasanta College for Women, for report presentation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Dr. Akansha Trivedi, and I'm here to present the report of entire add-on course. So, 5-day add-on course, online course on gender sensitization towards a human understanding of LGBTQI identities, which was organized under the aegis of Department of English, along with Spectrum Club, Vasanta College for Women, Krishnamurti Foundation, India. So, with the successful registration of 97 participants received by the course from different corners of the country, our course began on April 10th at 7:30 p.m. The comparing on the day was done by me, and Dr. Rashika Jan, member of a Spectrum Club, was responsible for link activation. Course began with the welcome address by our respected principal ma'am, Professor Alka Singh ma'am, who discussed about various issues regarding homo heteronormativeness, the issues of feeling left out in the society because of having different sexuality, and the empirical rules that regulates the sexual performance to find ground where one can speak of homonormative without any fear. Then Dr. Rashna Pandey ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of English and convener of Spectrum LGBTQIA Club, delivered the concept note. Dr. Rashna Pandey ma'am discussed about the interdisciplinary course, which is divided into 8 sessions, and she also explained about the concept of this entire course. She explained the urgent need for addressing this issue and reducing the transphobia from society and making it trans welcoming and trans friendly soon. Later, for keynote address, we had a very eminent personality with us, Professor Ruth Vanita, a retired professor, South and Southeast Asian Studies, University of Montana, US. She is Manushi's co-founder, which is India's first nationwide feminist magazine, and volunteers as its co-editor for 13 years. She had written several books like Sephod and the Virgin Mary and so on. Dr. Root's keynote address was on same-sex union in Indian literature and life, love, and death, the struggle for marriage in India since 1980. She focused on the fact that homosexuality is not a Western concept, rather, it has been in India since ancient times. The fact that homosexuality existed since a long time ago in India Dr. Ruth presented some examples, such as manuscripts found in 14th century providing the existence of homosexual couples. She gave bunch of examples explaining about the struggles faced by LGBTQIA couples who loved each other and wanted to marry but were opposed and suppressed by society. She explained about how love is way more than the gender identity. Her book Love's Right, published in year 2005, the book is an analysis of the issues surrounding the recognition of same-sex union and the relevance of this debate in democratic societies such as India. She mentioned that marriage is friendship. Marriage is a union of spirit, and the spirit is not male or female. Then, for presidential address, we had another eminent personality, Professor Anita Singh, head from Department of English, BHU, and coordinator of Center of Women Studies and Development, BHU. Professor Anita showed her agreement with the view of what Professor Ruth Panita expressed earlier during her lecture, that how the concept of homosexuality or same-sex marriages are not Western concept but have been very much present in the roots of Indian soil. She expressed her view about how marriages are concept of alignment of two souls and not two physical bodies. So it is very wrong to criminalize same-sex marriages or anything like that. She then adds, not being a legal subject creates a barrier between these marriages. Finally, and she also says that finally in 2014, transgender people has been recognized as a gender. Then why not their marriages? She very briefly discussed about Article 377 and how homosexuality has been criminalized in India since the British colonial era. The session was followed by a very engaging question and answer session with the participants. The program was concluded with a vote of thanks by Dr. Sunita Arya Ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Vasanta College for Women. Then on day 2, the second day was conducted on 11 April at 5 p.m. sharp. The comparing was done by Dr. Rashika Jain, member of Spectrum Club. The program was divided into 2 sessions. The first session was from 5 p.m. to 6:15 p.m. and the guest speaker was Dr. Visheshwara Rao, Associate Professor of English, Raghu Institute of Technology, Andhra Pradesh, and he spoke about transgender and gender diaspora, a comprehensive study. He began with the definition and the explanation of LGBTQI. He explained about each of the group lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgenders, queer, intersex, and asexual in a very comprehensive manner. Dr. Rao also spoke about the male and female gender roles, different genders performing activities which are of the other gender group, the way these communities are assaulted and even harassed in society was a main topic for discussion during the lecture. He mentioned about diaspora and explained it as a state of unhappiness, dissatisfaction, and frustration, which, when linked to gender, became a gender diaspora, which is mismatched with emotional identity and biological sex. He mentioned about the devastating state of transgender community and how they are mocked by everyone in society. These kind of conditions develop suicidal tendencies and major mental health issues. Other issues he mentioned was includes self harm, eating disorder, confusion about sex and gender, and psychological problems like facing anxiety, feeling of loneliness, suicidal intention, etc. The session of Dr. Rao sir was concluded by him answering various questions of participants, and he successfully satisfied all the queries of participants. The second session on same day started at 6:15 p.m. and the comparing was done by Miss Priyanka Patel, ma'am, member of his Spectrum Club, and the speaker of this session was Dr. Saurabh Kumar San, Associate Professor, Department of English, Vasanta College for Women. He gave lecture on problematizing heteronormativity and R. Raj Rao's The Boyfriend. He discussed how heteronormativity creates and upholds a social hierarchy based on sexual orientation with the practice and belief that heterosexuality is deemed as the societal norm. A heteronormative view therefore involves alignment of biological sex, sexuality, gender identity, and gender roles. Further on, he adds about identity. Identity is how people present themselves both internally and externally, as well as how an individual fits into socially constructed categories. He also briefly discussed about literature of R. Raj Rao, who is one of the India's leading gay rights activists, which came in 2003, his famous book The Boyfriend, one of the first gay novels to come from India. With his discussion coming to an end, the session was concluded by Dr. Saurabh Sir addressing questions asked by participants. On the third day, the third session of 5 day online program was started sharply at 5 p.m. in the evening. Miss Prerna Sen Gupta, a student of Vasanta College for Women Rajghat, compared the session. The course, the session had two segments. First session started at 5 and ended at 6:15 p.m. Guest lecture for first session was Dr. Vivek Kumar Singh, who is an assistant professor of English at Banaras Hindu University. He gave lecture on liquid body, anxiety, and undecidability. Dr. Vivek Singh discussed about the idea of body that has been so far understood, and then about the idea of a liquid body. He says so far the people have hesitated to associate with the idea of any identity or any minority with a disability. It is something that doesn't fall into the category of different identity, which is why that if the people are fighting for certain rights and ideas, if they don't associate themselves with the identity of a disability, they won't be able to fight it correctly. He further elaborates on how homosexual is assumed as a disease in the society. He says that the people in our society most of the time take homosexual as an error. Dr. Vivek Kumar Singh then continues by saying that the medical fields make this error look like a disease that can be fixed. Giving plenty of examples to the listeners of event, he makes them understood about the challenges that a member of LGBTQ community faces in everyday life. The session was concluded by a quick question and answer of participants, which was successfully satisfied by Dr. Kumar Singh sir. The second session started at 6:15 p.m. the same day, and the second guest lecture was Dr. Akshay Kumar Rath, who spoke about the transgender figure in India archives. Dr. Kumar sir is an associate professor of humanism and social science and management at Indian Institute of Technology, Bhubaneswar. Dr. Kumar sir spoke about identity, discord, justice, fear, and read some of the tales in Indian mythology and talks about the relation of it with the discourse. He begins by talking about the Hijra community and the way we have sealed them, and how society have made a clear distinction between them and Hijras. He goes on discussing about a tale from a Hindu text Ramayana, where how Rama grants Hijras the boon to confer blessings on people during auspicious inaugural occasions like childbirth and weddings. This boon is the origin of Badhai, in which Hijras sing, dance, and give blessings. Basically, he was focusing on the importance of Hijra community mentioned in our ancient text. He also talked about another tales of Sambalpur, his native place, and also famous for saris. He mentioned during Shiva's marriage to Parvati, Every year, hundreds and hundreds of people show up and identify themselves as hijras. They sing and dance and celebrate the event. He took various examples from Hindu scriptures to acknowledge the status of transgender community in ancient times. The session sparked many questions among participants, which was addressed by Dr. Akshay Kumar Rao during question and answer session, and it was concluded after that. Then our fourth day was conducted on 13th April, which began sharply at 2:15 p.m. afternoon, and comparing was done by Miss Priyanka Patel, ma'am, member of a Spectrum Club. It had two sessions. First session speaker was Dr. Rachna Pandey, ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Vasanta College for Women, Rajghat. Her topic for presentation was gender and drag performances. She goes on to defining the subject with deep understanding and clear research. She discussed drag as an idea and how drag accepts the fluidity of gender, talking about non binary multiplicity, and further promotes the idea of equality in gender terms. She discussed the concept of drag, its origin, and its components. It is women's clothing worn by men when they perform on stage. It is oftentimes confused with the cross dressing. She sheds light on a difference between the two. She mentions the popular American show RuPaul's Drag Race, which gave drag its huge popularity. Dr. Rachna Pandey, ma'am, adds a quote of RuPaul and connects the art form to life and people. She talks about Unicorn book by Omro Al Khadi and his life and the influence of drag on him. Analysis of Amro's life were discussed and how he came to become as a drag queen. His journey was also analyzed and reflects the struggles in overpowering his fears and acceptance with his real self. Dr. Rachna Pandey ma'am took a few examples from Indian society as well, like Alex Matthew as a Maya Ma, as a drag queen from India, and Rani Kohinoor, another example, and the pronouns they associate themselves with sometimes she, her, or they, them. She talks about the idea of third gender and how all the multiplicity would not be justified by using this term. She further talks about the idea of queer. The session ended with Q&A where Dr. Rachna Pandey ma'am successfully addressed all queries. The second session for the day started at 3:15 p.m. and the session had two speakers. First, Kiran Tirke and second, Gautam Yadav from Nas Foundation, New Delhi. The topic for the session was gender and sexuality training and awareness. The program started with the introduction of Naj Foundation, which is situated in Delhi, and its vision and how they want to create a justiciable and equitable society by transforming individuals from socially and economically excluded communities into agents of change. NAS advocates for diversity and inclusion and a greater understanding of sexuality and empowers members from the community to assess their rights. The session discussed about components of human sexuality, under which the discussion was about sex, gender identity, sexuality, gender role, and society. Gautam sir started with the definition we have for sex and gender. Gender always is defined by the outer appearance according to the social construction. In the gender role, the behavior of the male and the female gender are set by the society, and the jobs they must do according to the society and are judged when anyone rebel it. But in reality, gender identity is about how one feels about themselves. They mentioned that sex and gender are different things. Sex is about the male and female in which one is born, but gender can be male or female or trans, men or women. The session was taken over by Kiran ma'am. She started with her own views about gender identity for herself and then took it up to the topic of Hijra community, its history, and their sources of earning. She shared about her personal experience about how she was born with a boy body, but she never accepted her as a boy. She talked about her decisions about moving to Delhi and the struggle she faced during finding a job, and how she came in touch with NAS Foundation and started working, which changed her life. The session also ended with a successful question and answer session, and they successfully addressed all the participants. Today, on day 5, we have series of presentation which began at 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. We had 95 presenters, and presenters were divided among 6 moderators in 6 different groups. At 10 a.m., yellow group session was conducted under the supervision of Dr. Saurabh Kumar Singh sir and Dr. Sunita Arya ma'am. At 10 at 11 a.m., blue group session was conducted under the supervision of Professor Manjuri Jhunjhunwala ma'am and Dr. Rashna Pandey ma'am. At 12 noon, orange group session was conducted under supervision of me, Dr. Akansha Trivedi. At 1 p.m., green group session was conducted under the supervision of Dr. Rashika Jan ma'am and me. Uh, at 2 p.m., pink group session was conducted under the supervision of Miss Priyanka Patel and Dr. Rashika Jan ma'am. And now we have our valedictory session, which began sharply at 5 p.m. Which was started with a beautiful welcome address by our respected principal, Professor Alka Singh ma'am, followed up by my report presentation. And after that, we will have our valedictory address followed up by vote of thanks. Now, I would like to conclude my report presentation. Thank you so much for listening me so patiently, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great evening ahead.
For covering each and every detail so minutely. Thank you. Moving on, now is the time for valedictory address. And for this, we are highly fortunate to have among us Professor Meenakshi Ranjan Chatterjee, sir. Sir is a professor in Department of English, University of Kalyani, West Bengal. He has co-edited the McCoy Thought, Stories of the Disempowered Male and Nari Bhav, Androgyny and Female Impersonation in India. He is also the author of a novel called The Scholar. Since March 2020, he has also started posting videos on his YouTube channel. His areas of interest are masculinity studies and queer studies. Since 2010, he has been running a Facebook group called Mean Gender Studies. Forthcoming is Entering the Mail, queer fiction of Krishna Gopal Malik, his translation of the queer narratives of the Bengali writer Krishna Gopal Malik. So, on behalf of the entire fraternity of Vasanta College for Women, I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. Today's topic is sympathy, empathy, or speaking nearby, and positionality. With this, I invite Sir to kindly throw some light on this topic and help us in developing a better understanding of it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for the invitation that has been extended to me to speak at this 5-day add-on course on gender sensitization. It would really have been a great pleasure for me to have been present at Varanasi in person, but hopefully such an opportunity will arise in not too distant future, and I certainly look forward to that visit. Um, I have been listening to most of the presentations that were made over the last few days, and I certainly have some observations on the basis of what I heard. And but I think the overall point that I would really want to make is about where we situate ourselves, where do we find ourselves, because I think that most of us who took part in this particular 5-day workshop, they perhaps would not identify as either L or G or B or T or Q. So, most of the paper presenters would perhaps identify themselves as being cis, as being heterosexual, not necessarily heteronormative, and they would perhaps want to identify themselves as allies. So, this particular idea of being an ally is something that I am myself a little uncomfortable about. And I shall tell you exactly why I am so uncomfortable about the word ally. But we'll come to that later. Now, when I was asked to speak on this occasion, I thought, what is the stance that we normally take when we are expected to speak at an occasion where marginal identities are being spoken about? So there can be two broad positions that one can take. One is one can claim the position of marginality for themselves, to say that I myself am marginalized, but also one could also say that I myself perhaps do not feel marginalized, but I am speaking for those who are marginalized. So there is broadly, I mean, there can be other positions to take, but these are the two broad positions that one normally comes across. There is a lot of discussion regarding what is the correct way to feel for somebody else, if that feeling is as a positive feeling. What is the correct kind of positive feeling that one should have when one is trying to feel for somebody who is not them? So there are some who believe that sympathy is perhaps a good way of trying to establish connections with those who are not like you. So you can say, you know, all my sympathies, or I feel sympathetic towards you, my position is one of sympathy. So there is that aspect. But then there are others who believe that sympathy does not really go far enough. Sympathy still leaves a certain amount of distance. It leaves a certain amount of distance between the person who is engaging and the person that is being engaged with. They suggest not sympathy, but they suggest empathy. And when they say that empathy is much better than sympathy, what they basically try to say is that when you're empathetic, you are actually not just saying, oh, you know, how sad that this has happened to you. You actually feel their sadness with them. So empathy is when you are kind of moving out of your identity for a period of time. It can be a very short period of time. And you are getting into the identity of the person with whom you are empathizing. So I myself have struggled with these two positions for many, many years. I myself have asked myself, you know, is sympathy good or is empathy good? And somehow, sympathy, of course, was never entirely satisfactory, but the time came when empathy was not satisfactory either, because I felt that you really cannot be empathetic. You cannot be empathetic. That is a position that you simply cannot have. You may wish to be empathetic, but you can't. For the very simple reason that pain is such a thing that even joy to a certain extent, but pain more specifically, is such a thing that you genuinely cannot feel the pain of another person. You may think that you can, but it is not quite possible to do that. So I thought empathy is a position. If I say that I'm empathetic towards somebody, I would basically be lying. I would not be very honest about it, because empathy in that sense is not entirely possible. Sympathy, I thought, was possible, but sympathy also had a kind of a power differential to it. So when you say that you are feeling sympathetic towards somebody, whether you actually say so in so many words or not, you are basically claiming a position of superiority. You are saying, oh, how sad that you are in this miserable position. I, on the other hand, am not. So therefore, the fact that I am not in your position is giving me a certain kind of emotional superiority, even if I don't want to call it that. But that is what it is. It is almost the same thing when people give alms to beggars. Yeah? Or when you sort of donate something and then you advertise it all over Facebook. Oh, I donated 100 to Feminist Flood Relief Fund. Why is that advertisement necessary? It is necessary because you want to advertise the fact that you're a good person, that you are in a position to take pity on those who are less fortunate. And so, when you're making a donation and when you're advertising it, or when you're giving alms to a beggar, these acts are ways in which you are consciously or unconsciously consolidating your position of superiority. So, sympathy was unhelpful for me. Empathy was unhelpful for me. And it was just then that I came across the theory of Trinh T. Minh Ha. Now, Trinh T. Minh Ha is a filmmaker of Vietnamese origin. She's currently faculty in the United States. Trinh T. Minh Ha is somebody that I have been very, very happy to discover, because she does not talk about sympathy, she does not talk about empathy, she talks about something that I have never heard anybody else talk about. She talks about speaking nearby. Speaking nearby. And I'm so happy that Trinh T. Minh Ha has spoken about speaking nearby, that I personally feel that when I speak for an identity that is not mine, when I speak for a life that is not mine, when I speak for a predicament that is not mine, I cannot be sympathetic, because that would be, unacceptable, because that would show a kind of moral superiority. I cannot be empathetic because empathy is impossible, but I can certainly speak nearby. So the political position of speaking nearby, I thought was a good one. Because, and I find that speaking nearby is also a queer position. And I shall explain exactly why it is a queer position. Now, it is a queer position because when we normally think about queerness, we think about particular identities. Many of us make the mistake of thinking that a queer person somehow belongs to either L or G or B or T or Q or I or plus group. We think of queer as a fixed identity. But that, I think, is a slight misunderstanding of queer. Because queer is not a fixed identity. Queer is a politics. It is a politics. Queer is a practice. Queer is a doing. It is not a being. So, what does queer do? What queer does is that, unlike other political positions, queer does not automatically say, I am 100% and completely, totally opposed to you. This kind of a radical opposition is something that queer does not believe in. because that kind of a radical oppositionality actually helps those in power. Patriarchy is very happy with women who are overtly and ostensibly feminist, because that makes it easier for patriarchy to mark those women out. Oh, look, there she goes. There goes a feminist. It becomes very easy for patriarchy to label these women, or indeed, as in my case, men. Queer does not believe in that open, radical, complete oppositionality. Queer believes in subversion. Queer believes in subterfuge. Queer's war is a guerrilla war. It is a war that doesn't look like a war. Because queer is the politics of subversion. And what is the politics of subversion? The politics of subversion is basically this, is that I will pretend that your oppressive structures are wonderful. I will pretend that your oppressive structures are excellent. But without you noticing, I am going to undercut those structures. I'm going to disregard those structures. I'm going to undermine those structures. I'm going to slowly eat into those structures. I'm going to try and erode those structures from within. But because I'm eroding those structures from within, outwardly, the structure looks fine. So, those who do queer politics, they are very often mistaken as being conformist. But they're not. They're deeply non-conformist. It is another matter that their non-conformism is not overtly visible. So that is what queer is. Then what is speaking nearby? Why is speaking nearby queer? Speaking nearby is queer because of the very simple reason that when you're speaking nearby, you are not saying, I am not you, as in sympathy. Oh, you're so sad, I'm so happy, but I'm going to take pity on you. But thank God, your unhappiness is not my unhappiness. I have a very happy life. So, speaking nearby does not believe in sympathy. Speaking nearby does not believe in empathy. Oh, your suffering is my suffering. I completely feel your suffering. That's a lie. Speaking nearby does not believe in that either. Speaking nearby believes in something completely different. And I think I could do a lot worse than read out the exact words of Trinity Minha, because I think that will help us better understand exactly what she wants to do. When she speaks of speaking nearby, she says that it is a speaking that does not objectify. Very important word. It is a speaking that does not objectify, does not point to an object as if it is distant from the speaking subject or absent from the speaking place. So you are going to talk about the subject as if the subject is very far from your life. You have a comfortable life. You have a wonderful, orderly, happy, organized life. But you are going to talk about people who are not quite as fortunate as you. You are consciously or unconsciously othering them. You're distancing them. Trinity Minha says, speaking nearby, therefore, is not distancing. It does not point to an object as if it is distant from the speaking subject. or absent from the speaking place. A speaking that reflects on itself and can come very close to a subject without, however, seizing it or claiming it. Very important reminder over there. Because we academics, we unfortunately have a tendency to seize and claim certain topics for ourselves. I am the specialist in gender studies. Nobody knows gender studies more than me. Or I am a specialist in Dalit studies. I am the king of Dalit studies. We have a tendency to claim a certain identity and everything that is produced out of that identity for ourselves. How can you have a seminar on gender studies and not call me? How can you have a seminar on Dalit studies and not call me? So it's about that. It's about seizing it and it's about claiming it. A speaking in brief whose closures are only moments of transition. These are forms of indirectness well understood by anyone in tune with poetic language. Poetic language is indirect. Poetic language is not direct. And it is this indirectness which I claim is queer. It is this indirectness which Trinity Minha loves about speaking nearby. To say, therefore, that one prefers not to speak about, but rather to speak nearby, is a great challenge. Because actually, this is not just a technique or a statement to be made verbally, and this is my favorite part in that quotation. It is an attitude in life, a way of positioning oneself in relation to the world. Love it. So Trinity Minha is basically saying that to speak nearby is an attitude in life, a way of positioning oneself in relation to the world. So, I cannot claim to be an ally, because if I'm an ally, then I'm very clearly saying that I am not you, I am simply supporting you. So therefore, being an ally means that you're definitely not the person that you're supporting. You are preferably somebody who is socially more empowered, but you're a good person, which is why you're taking pity on these sad people and you're saying, oh, I will be your ally. Speaking nearby is not about being an ally. It is simply about, the position is that I don't know if I'm entirely unlike you. I don't know that I'm entirely like you. Yeah? So I don't know that I'm entirely unlike you. I don't know that I'm entirely like you. And it is from that position of indeterminacy, it is from that position of hesitation, yeah? It is from the position of hesitation, of being tentative. Oh, I love that word. Tentative. Speaking nearby is tentative. I'm trying to speak nearby. I am not you. I can never be you. But I can try and approximate your position. I can speak not for you, but I can speak near you. And I think it is this sense of speaking near you, which I think is so moving. It is almost an emotional act. Because I have always believed that politics, when it is truly successful, it is in equal measure intellectual and emotional. And the same thing applies to queer politics as well. Queer politics is not just all about intellectual heft. It is all about feeling. But it is not the feeling of like, oh, let me cry on your behalf. No. Queer politics does not believe in sentimentalization. Queer politics does not believe in sentimentalization. What queer politics believes in is an ability to try and understand exactly what they are. And understanding is a part of your title, isn't it? Towards a humane understanding of LGBTQ identities. Understanding. It's very important. Which brings me to certain things that I have been hearing over the last few days. And I would like to, as a part of my valedictory presentation, I would like to perhaps give you my opinion on where I stand on these issues. Beginning with the one which a lot of people over here seems to have found quite ready acceptance, the question of marriage. And everybody seems to think that it is rather wonderful that marriage is constantly being spoken of as the union of souls, as the union of spirits. I'm sure it sounds very nice, but the bad news is that marriage as an institution has got absolutely nothing to do with either the spirit or with the soul. It has only to do with bodies. And the sooner we acknowledge it, the better is it going to be for us. In 2018, when Section 377 was read down, by the way, a lot of us are still laboring under the illusion that Section 377 has been scrapped, it has been abolished, it has been demolished, it has been abrogated, it has been scraped off. No. Section 377 is still very much there in the Indian Penal Code. Nobody has taken it away. What has happened is that Section 377 has been read down. I think this is a phrasal verb that we all need to very carefully memorize. Section 377 has been read down. What does reading down mean? Reading down means that the applicability of that section, by the way, it's not an article, it's a section, the applicability of that section has now been restricted. The law is still there, but it is now being restricted. So now, Section 377 is not going to be applicable on two adult human beings of whatever gender if they have sex in private. That's all. The section is still very much there. Now, when Section 377 was read down in September 2018, the cyberspace exploded with a hashtag, which was, you all know it, love is love. I have always been very, very uncomfortable with that hashtag, love is love. Because Section 377 was never about love. It was about sex. So, when you are celebrating a judgment which was given on a section of the Indian Penal Code that expressly deals with sex, and when you are celebrating it by calling it the victory of love, You know what you're doing? You're sentimentalizing it. And when you're sentimentalizing it, you are again falling into the trap of patriarchy. Because patriarchy has lasted so long because it sentimentalizes violence. Patriarchy sentimentalizes violence. And marriage is, whether you agree with me or not, ultimately a violent institution. You see, love marriage is a very new invention. Love marriage is not a very old, concept. Originally, marriage was definitely not about love. It was about property. More specifically, it was about the woman being the property of the man. Which part of turning a human being into a property is love? I myself have to say, I don't understand. Which part of claiming a human being to be my property is an expression of love? I don't understand. So, rather than celebrate the possibility that everybody can at some point get married, I think it is perhaps wise to look at the institution of marriage in itself and to try and understand exactly what is it that marriage does. To which there are going to be various objections. Oh, sir, hospital visitation rights, legal safeguards, nominees for your bank account, for your life insurance policy. Yes, but those will have to be changed. Some queer activists have now begun to think about family in a slightly different way. They have started to talk about something called the chosen family, not the biological family. They talk about the chosen family, a family of people who have decided to live together as a family. They don't have to be married to each other. They don't have to be having sex with each other. Chosen family. So perhaps the time has come for us to not give an unqualified approval to this holy grail of matrimony, but to try and understand how we can perhaps imagine families differently without a sexual relationship being at the center. So that would be my understanding of how this works. As far as the novel by R. Raj Rao, which I read 20 years ago when it first came out, and I cannot be the only person who was absolutely horrified by it. I was horrified by it. I was horrified because of the central character, Yudi, and his snobbery, his caste consciousness, his entitlement, his sense of superiority. There was not one thing about the central character, Yudi, that I liked. He came across as a terrible person. And if I were to look at the novel as a Dalit studies scholar, it would be an obnoxious novel. because it is absolutely about mutual exploitation. Love is nowhere there. It's mutual exploitation. The mutual exploitation is being talked about as love. It's a pretty violent novel, but somehow that violence is never noticed. We all remember how the novel ends. The novel ends with an arrangement having been arrived at, where Milind and Milind Mahadik and Judy, they are going to continue to have sex with each other. Judy is continue to pay Milind money. Milind will continue to put on the front of being a happily married man. So the novel ends with a lie being instituted, a social lie being instituted. It's a horrendous book. So when we look at R.R. Rao's novel, I think it would be a good idea to be a little bit more critical, not only about the way in which sexuality is being treated, because that is obvious, but the way in which caste and class are being treated. Because those are the two things that I thought were the most unacceptable things. I mean, the way in which it was treated in the novel, I thought, was pretty bad. We come to the point about gender pronouns. And one of the presenters said that to ask to be addressed by a particular pronoun or to be referred to by a particular pronoun is an imposition, and that is patriarchal. I don't think that's a very helpful way of looking at it, because surely if we live in a developed society, if we are living in a sophisticated society, if we are living in a democratic society, then surely we all have the right to claim the identity that we choose to claim. And that certainly includes the right to have the pronoun that I'm comfortable with. So, asking to be identified as they, I don't think is an imposition. I think it's a basic human right. And that human right is still being fought over in the West in a very, very lethal way. Transphobia has now begun to appear respectable. Transphobia has begun to appear respectable because there are certain feminists, most of them women, extraordinarily enough, who are of the opinion that to regard trans women as women is somehow an infringement on the rights of women. I don't understand how that is, because they have only one thing to say, but actually two things to say against it. One is, how dare a trans woman compete with cis women, because apparently trans women are physically more powerful. And the next objection is also tied to the body. How dare a trans woman use cis women's facilities, such as bathrooms, because, as you very well know, all around the world, the majority of the rapes that are being happening, they're all being committed by trans women, right? Right? Majority of the rapes are being committed by trans women? No, right? They're not. They're being committed by cis men. There are perhaps one or two cases of trans women indulging in sexual assault, but those two exceptional cases are being used to hang transphobia from. I think that's very, very unhelpful. So maybe we should not look at the demand for the diversity of pronouns as an imposition, but as a very basic human right that we all have a right to. It amazes me that 31 years after the publication of Judith Butler's Gender Trouble, some people still seem to labor under the illusion that sex is biological and gender is social. It causes me great pain that people still seem to think that sex is biological, because of the very simple reason that if you say sex is biological, then you are effectively, without knowing it, positioning yourself in alignment with patriarchy. I think that is very, very dangerous, because that is what patriarchy believes. Let me break it down for you. Till the second wave feminism, this is what was believed: sex is biological and gender is social. But all of that changed with the third wave. Because in the third wave, it was finally realized that sex exists, but as a story. Sex is as real as Batman, as Superman, as Spider-Man, as Wonder Woman. Sex is a fantasy. It's a myth. It's a foundational fairy tale. Sex is created on the body so that on that base, gender can be constructed. So therefore, gender is constructed on a lie. And that lie is sex. You are going to say, oh, sir, but there is something called chromosome. Sure. There is something called XX chromosome that makes women, XY chromosome that makes men. That's what you think. But imagine a scenario where a very attractive woman walks into a hospital and walks into the chamber of a male doctor and says, well, I've got a problem with urination. Yes? Could you just take a look at it? The doctor would be horrified. The doctor is going to say, no, you're a woman. I'm not supposed to look at you. The gynecological ward is over on that side. I don't deal with female bodies. No, this is not my job. And the woman is going to say, no, that I understand. But you are assuming that I have a vagina. Well, I don't have a vagina. I have a penis. And I have 2 testicles. After the doctor picks himself up from the floor, having fallen on the floor from the chair, out of shock, the doctor says, how is it possible? How is it possible? The very beautiful lady says, well, because I'm a trans woman, and I don't think of myself as a trans woman, I think of myself as a woman. But, yeah, I have a penis and I have 2 testicles. Why? Is the doctor then going to say, I'm so sorry, but the rest of you is female, that part of you is male? Can the doctor say that? No. Because if this lady has decided that her idea of a woman includes the penis and two testicles, who are we to say no? You have to be a correct kind of woman. You have to be a correct kind of man. Who are we to impose correctness? Because if we are going to impose correctness, then, oh my God, we will soon be running down a rabbit hole. We will have to decide who is the correct Hindu. We'll have to decide who is the correct Indian. We are going to decide who is the correct everything. Are we correct along those lines? Are we a correct Indian? Are we a correct male, correct female, correct Hindu, correct Muslim? Are we correct anything? We are not. We are all imperfect. And we have somehow made peace with that imperfection. Hindus fast on certain days. I regard myself as a Hindu. I don't fast on certain days. But do I regard myself as a Hindu? Yeah. There are certain Hindus who don't eat non-vegetarian food. I'm a Bengali. I can't live without fish. Does that mean that I'm not going to call myself a Brahmin? I'll call myself a Brahmin. And I eat chicken? Yeah. I eat mutton? Yeah. Am I a Brahmin? Yeah. So there is no one way to be a Brahmin. There shouldn't be one way to be a woman. There shouldn't be one way to be a man. So if the penis changes according to the body that it is attached to, it could be a body that society recognizes as male, it could be a body that society recognizes as female. So therefore the penis does not have any fixed gender. If the penis does not have a fixed gender, then how can we say that one is born male, one is born female? Simply on the basis of genitalia? Well, the gender of the genitalia can change. So if the gender of the genitalia can change, why bother attributing sex to it? When a doctor husband and a doctor wife has a child, the child is not a doctor child. Or is it? So therefore, just because you have a man and a woman giving birth to a baby, the baby does not have to be a boy or a girl. The baby can just be a baby. I'm coming to the end of my presentation. There are some people who still labor under the mistaken impression that homonormativity is a good thing. No, homonormativity is not a good thing. Homonormativity is a very bad thing because all normativities are bad. Homonormativity is when all homosexuals are told you have to be correctly gay. You have to be correctly gay. And now I think in India, homonormativity is, much to my shock, becoming more and more popular because there are all these pictures of two men getting married, two women getting married. First of all, these marriages are completely illegal because gay marriage as of now is illegal. So therefore those marriages look good on social media. They are beautifully shot, but they have no legal validity. But what they are constituting is a kind of homonormativity, which basically means that if you are gay, you have to find one man and settle down with that man. Perhaps have a couple of children through surrogacy, have 2 dogs, have a white picket fence, have a 3-story house and 2 cars. Be a normal gay person. So, this pressure to be a normal gay person, this imposition that you have to be a normal gay person, you shouldn't sleep around, you should not be promiscuous, you shouldn't be in love with more than one person at a time. That kind of a regimentation of the homosexual into a certain normative stereotype, that is homonormativity. So you see, homonormativity is as dangerous and as patriarchal as heteronormativity. So, I'm going to end this rather long presentation by asking us, all of us, to perhaps understand that there is a lot of very progressive political energy in taking the position of speaking nearby. Speaking nearby is a queer politics that is very empowering because of the very simple reason that it has got its own interesting terms of engagement, which patriarchy very often cannot figure out. And surely, the real success of any anti patriarchal enterprise is to confuse and to confound patriarchy. That is where real success lies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. You have explained in a very simple and lucid way about theory of Chintamana. What is the difference between sympathy, empathy, and speaking nearby? About chosen family and biological family and many other things. So in fact, when I read this topic, this very thing came in my mind that we can't claim to understand and feel their pain because we cannot actually feel their pain. And when we can't feel their pain, how can we sympathize or empathize with them? So you have made this point very clear. Thank you so much, sir. I believe that our participants must also be coming across with so many questions. So the platform is open. If you want to discuss
Yes,
something,
I'll
please
be
come
very
forward.
happy. I'll be happy to answer questions. Yes. Thank you. A lot of very kind comments being made, for which I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, I'm waiting for the questions.
Dear participants, the platform is open. If you want to discuss something, please come forward. Riya Basu, you have raised your hand. Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for such an enlightening talk on the topic. And I think you've changed our way of looking at it altogether. In fact, I'm almost suffering from an infinity loss that what have I been doing all my life as a sexuality scholar? Am I doing it properly or should I be doing it? Do I have the right to do it? To look at this way? But then, sir, I really want to know that then what is the approach that we can adopt? Like, for example, this I cannot sympathize with the LGBT community because I am not one of them. This goes same for, let's say, for example, the people who are being raped, the people who are Dalit. So then what is the approach of studying them? Like for example, I want to write a research paper. Just for example, since I'm working on sexuality studies, so I'm asking you this. I want to, study victims of a particular time zone, or let's say, like something which happened yesterday, or something which happened years back. Then what is the possible approach that I can apply in order to analyze them?
Yeah. Fantastic question, Ria. Thank you so much. I think I've already used a couple of adjectives, and I think again, the two adjectives that I absolutely believe in. One is to be tentative, the other is to be humble. So, humility and being tentative are two very powerful ways of approaching a subject. So therefore, so how does that manifest itself? It manifests itself by basically, Ria, this is a problem that we researchers, in spite of our best intentions, we fall into that trap. We say, for example, I am going to interview somebody who is a rape victim, not rape survivor, yeah, and I'm going to say, okay, wow, so, oh, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Yeah, so tell me what happened. Tell me. And the person is absolutely traumatized. The person is like, no, no. I mean, it was horrible enough that I went through it. I'm not really. And then when the person is struggling, when the person is unable to articulate, the person isn't, is groping for words, the researcher becomes impatient. The researcher is like, oh my God, you're wasting my time. I have got this grant from Ford Foundation. I have got 7 lakh rupees. I'm wasting my time with you because you are not giving me what I want. I want to claim your narrative. I want to produce this amazing research thesis that is going to be awarded, a prize. But you're not helping me. You're not helping me. So then you start by thinking, oh, I want to work on rape victims because, oh, how sad. But when you actually start doing the research, you become so superior to them. So I think that the best way to approach it would be to be tentative, to be patient, and to be humble. And Ria, what we really don't do, especially as professors, we have lost the habit of listening. We don't listen anymore. We are so eager to talk because we love the sound of our voices that we just don't listen anymore. So, what would a good researcher do? Be humble, be tentative, be patient, listen not to reply, listen to understand. Yeah, because no matter, it's a very strange relationship that we have. On the one hand, we need our subjects for research, so we need them, but in a very strange way, we expect them to feel grateful that we are paying attention to them. So one has to be constantly checking lest one becomes proud and superior because, oh, I am a researcher from Harvard. You are a Dalit woman, so be grateful to me. So I think one has to constantly check one's sense of superiority, and great research will come out of it.
Thank you. So I just have one more sentence. I'm sorry, I'm like it's too much.
Sure.
But I just wanted to ask that this feeling that this superiority is this coming from an age-old patriarchal hegemony?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because patriarchy has told us that knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. I have knowledge. I have got an MA. I am working towards maybe I have a PhD. I'm working for a postdoc. I have knowledge. You poor woman, you don't have knowledge. I'm superior to you. You absolutely hit the nail on the head, Ria. It is ultimately patriarchal. Yes.
Thank you. So I feel better now. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Wonderful.
So there are two questions in the chat box.
So could you just well, actually, wait on a second. I think I can
So I'll
in-call
read.
messages. Yeah, no, it's okay, yeah. Right. So Tanya calling. So please talk. Is that the one that you want me to take, Rashika?
Sure, sir.
Is,
Sure.
is Tanya, are there other questions?
So
No,
there are two
Tanya.
questions.
Tanya.
Koli and Rushi Sam.
and Vidushi. Uh, yeah. So Tanya, so please talk about the politics of subversion. Is there any proponent of this theory? How to refer to it? I would like to hear about the idea of patriotism. Um, no. The politics of well, I mean Judith Butler. Judith Butler. Read Gender Trouble, because in Gender Trouble she tells you what is the full title. It is called Gender Trouble. I think it's called Gender Trouble and the Subversion of Identity or something. So the term subversion is right there in the title of the book. So I think reading Gender Trouble is good. And also, if you don't want to read Gender Trouble, then even at the risk of beating my own drum, I would very humbly direct you to my YouTube channel, where I have uploaded 9 videos on Judith Butler, 3 for each chapter. You can certainly watch those videos, and watching the videos, I think, is going to give you some kind of a clear idea as to exactly how subversion works. So Judith Butler would be answer to your question. Yeah, exactly. Feminism and the subversion of identity. Judith Butler is somebody that, as of now, I'm a huge fan of, and I've been a fan of her for the last 30 years. So she's fantastic. So Tanya, that is the answer to your question. Vidushi, sir, on one side we say that we should follow the natural or traditional way, otherwise things will get ruined, and on the other side we're respecting the new ways. We have also seen sometimes new things contributing to disasters. My question is how to decide where to follow the natural and where to follow the. Okay. Dear Vidushi, here is the breaking news on CNN. There is nothing natural about human society. Okay, I'll say that again. There is nothing natural about human society. Nothing at all. Or everything is natural. I was speaking at another college, at a Kolkata college recently, and I was asked the same question, the differentiation between nature and culture. Classic binary, nature and culture. And I was asked this question, sir, how do you separate nature and culture? So I said, I am a human being. Am I a part of nature or culture? So the student said, nature. Nature, because we are ultimately, we are part of the animal kingdom. Okay. So the house that I build, is that nature or culture? So they said, that is culture. That is artificial. You're building that house. So I said, okay. Take a bird. Take the bird's nest. Is the bird nature or culture? Nature. Okay. Is the bird's nest beautifully done, wonderfully shaped? Is the bird's nest nature or culture? Nature. So I said, really? Really? So my house is culture, the bird's house is nature. How? Make up your mind. Either both are culture or both are nature. The poor student was completely flummoxed. She didn't know what to say. So I said, no, I don't mean to confuse you. What I'm simply trying to say is that very often when we are told that something is natural, and by the way, something that is natural is not automatically something that is traditional, because tradition is artificially produced. So you cannot say natural or traditional. If it is traditional, then it is definitely not natural. Because nature does not have any one tradition. So I think what we really need to do is to be a little bit more critical of those statements which are sold to us as being natural. Let us look a little deep into those natural phenomena and to see whether what we are being taught is actually nature or is it still culture. And I think patriarchy very often tends to consolidate its position by selling itself as being natural. And I think this is where feminists have made such an important and a radical contribution, to call that bluff. To basically say, no, 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 patriarchy is definitely not natural, patriarchy is absolutely artificially produced. So, my suggestion to you would be, every time somebody says this is natural, take a good look at it. Chances are it isn't. Thank you.
So I guess there are no more questions or observations.
I think I have a wrong conception of patriarchy. Can I listen to your words? Wrong, no, 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 wrong conception of patriarchy. Well, in gist, patriarchy is basically any structure that binarizes, and one part of the binary is held up as good and the other part of the binary is held up as bad. So wherever you come across a binary, chances are it's patriarchal. Because patriarchy will always, and these binaries are constantly being invented. Constantly. And we do that ourselves. So therefore, we say, Varanasi bad, Calcutta good. Delhi bad, West Bengal good. Hindu good, Muslim bad, English bad, Hindi good. We constantly do this binarization. And every time we binarize, we are falling into a patriarchal trap. So get rid of the binary, get rid of patriarchy. That's what it is. Oh, there are many. I think what I can do. I don't find them here, but I used to have some books here. Hmm. Anyway, I think what you can certainly do is look at a book called, I think it's probably called Gender or Genders. It's by Claire Colebrook. So I'm just going to write it out for you. Claire Colebrook. Colebrook. Claire Colebrook is very good. Chris Beasley. Chris. Chris. Okay, this bit I am not very sure about. You may find that I have spelt it wrong, but it's either Beasley or Beasley. Chris Beasley, Claire Colebrook. Look at the work of Cora Kaplan. So look at the work of Cora Kaplan. Yeah. Joseph Bristow. These names, they'll come to me. They don't all come to me at the same time. But these are some of the books that I think you can look at. Just search, according to by those names, and I'm hoping that you'll get stuff. But yeah. So anyway, these are enough to get you started. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Absolutely. Yes. So, yes, I'll just give you the. Oh God, what have I done now? What I am going to do is, yes, I should have given you the name of the theorist, which I did not. So her name is Trin T. mean Trinity mean ha. Trinity mean ha. So Trinity mean has it's an interview. So this is an interview that is available on the internet as a PDF, open access. Everybody can read it. I strongly recommend that you do. And that essay is called "Speaking Nearby: A Conversation with Trinity Minha." Speaking nearby, a conversation with Trinity Minha. Fantastic, fantastic. She's a filmmaker. She's a filmmaker of Vietnamese origin, and I mean, I love the way in which she theorizes, kind of, a representational position. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy. I think you'll enjoy what she has to say.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking up each and every query so humbly. So it was not only an enlightening session, but it has seriously left all of us with a very deep thought. And it has also provided a new perspective to all of us. Sincerely, we want to listen more and more, sir, but we do understand that
Call me to Banaras.
Sure, sir, sure. We'll be fortunate enough if you come to Banaras.
I'd love to. I'd love to come. I'd love to come.
So we want to seriously listen more and more from you, but we do understand that already in such a busy schedule, you have spared so much time.
Not at all. Not at all. Thank you so much.
Time, so we have to thank you so much, sir. Due to the paucity of time, so we are now closing the session. I request Dr. Saurabh Singh, sir, who is an associate professor in Department of English, Vasanta College for Women, and who is one of the major catalysts behind this course, to kindly deliver a formal vote of thanks.
Okay, am I audible, Rashika?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay, great. So, at the outset, Nilatri sir's talk has given all of us new critical positionings, I think. And the way sir has been talking about, especially beginning with the binary opposition, which Derrida might have called as a violent hierarchy. So, we all need to get away with this violent hierarchy while displacing it with lots of critical involvement. We all need to be critical not only of natural, so-called natural, but also constructed. Nilatri sir has given us right from Trin Minaha speaking nearby her talk, and I was just wondering, can sympathy or empathy be a route to speak nearby? Like a true scholar, sir, not true scholar rather, like the title says, sensitization, and he has been so sensitive because he has been present with us throughout the 5 days, and this shows his commitment to the cause of LGBTQIA+ identities. Sir, thank you so much for making it happen, and be rest assured, next time when we do something in terms of identity politics, sexual politics, or even other burning discourses which we are faced with, we would love to have you in Banaras in person. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time and addressing, not giving us not these answers, but giving us lots of questions. I would like to thank Professor Alka Singh, Alka Didi, for it was her brainchild that we should do something on LGBTQ. And initially we tried to do this as a workshop or a kind of lecture series, but she was there to let us know that, look, let's make it as an add-on course. And yes, with her all possible support and the way she used to inspire us, we could do something. It's just a small movement towards the gender sensitization, towards a humane understanding, with all the understanding warranted as to what is humane and what even understanding is all about. Thank you, Didi, for your kind inspiration, support, and everything. This program was, though there has been several stakeholders, but the members of Spectrum Club, especially the coordinator, that is Dr. Rachna Pandey, she deserves a special applause for she has designed, developed, and delivered as well, along with the members, teachers, Dr. Akanksha, Dr. Rashika, Dr. Priyanka. And I would be failing in my duties if I don't count the contributions made by my students like Ritu Singh, Prerna Sen Gupta, Shambhavi Pathak, Shweta, and Yashashvi Chandelier. At the same time, I would like to thank the members of the Department of English, Professor Manjari Nujunwala, Dr. Sunita Arya, who have always been there in making this program a possibility in fact, and possibility with lots of pregnant meanings. Participants happen to be a core of any program, and in this way the participants of this add-on course, and we had a kind of pan-India representation because we had participants from different states of India, and the way they have been here, they have been regular, and the way they raised the questions and the way they helped and contributed in making this course a course with their questions and active involvement. And the way they presented themselves today, that is really remarkable, and I think they all need to be thanked for. With this, I think I have rather been successful enough in including all the stakeholders, shareholders of this program, who have been the part and parcel of this. And if anybody is not there, that's my fault. And so all the visible and invisible contributors, all the visible and invisible players of this add-on course are thanked for. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, each one of you. Thank you so much. Rashika.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rachna Pandey, for giving us an opportunity, for giving me an opportunity in being a part of these 5 day online add-on course and getting a chance of meeting actually and listening to so many eminent and expert speakers. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, sir. So we are ending up the meeting. Ma'am, some instruction has to be given to students or shall I end up the meeting? Rachna Pandey, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, Rashika ma'am. So, should we close the meeting? Yes, the feedback link is already shared. Please share it again. And thank you so much, everyone. Please fill in the feedback details and about the certificate and other things. Once we'll go through the details and the attendance sheets, we will shortly, within a week, get back to you and sending the certificates accordingly. Thank you so much.